Hey you, yeah, you watching this video, take a good look at the people around you. Do they seem off to you? Maybe moving a bit strangely? Speaking in an odd way? I know it sounds paranoid, but after working at this Halloween shop, I can't shake the feeling that something's not right. And the closer we get to Halloween, the worse it gets. I'm starting to think these aren't just costumes people are buying. They're something else entirely. I started working nights at Grinning costume Emporium last month. Needed the cash, you know? College isn't cheap, and my student loans are piling up faster than I can say crippling debt. But from day one, something felt off about this place. Can't put my finger on it, but there's this constant prickle at the back of my neck, like someone's watching me. First night on the job, this guy comes in about an hour before closing. I'm restocking vampire capes when I hear the bell jingle. I turn around, and there he is, tall, thin, wearing a plain gray suit. But the way he moves, it's all wrong. Jerky like a marionette with tangled strings. He approaches the counter, and I swear his joints make this faint creaking sound with each step. I require your freshest costumes, he says in this weird, flat voice. No inflection, no emotion, just words. I show him our new arrivals, still in plastic, straight from the warehouse. He leans in close, and I kid you not, he starts sniffing them. Actually sniffing them, like a bloodhound on the trail. After a minute of this, he straightens up, looks at me with these empty eyes, and says, "These are not fresh enough. I will return another time." I thought it was just a one-off thing, you know. Some weirdo getting too into character for Halloween. But then more of them started showing up. Always at night, always moving like their bodies don't quite fit right. And always asking for fresh costumes in those same flat voices. I tried telling my boss about it. Figured he'd want to know about the creepy customers giving me the heebie-jeebies, but he just shrugged it off. Halloween brings out the weirdos, he said, not even looking up from his inventory sheets. As long as they're buying, I don't care if they do the Macarena while they shop. But it kept getting weirder. One night, this woman comes in wearing a turtleneck. It's like 80 degrees outside, but whatever, not my business. She's browsing the witch costumes when she reaches up to adjust her collar. That's when I see it, just for a second, but clear as day. A line of stitches running along her neck, disappearing under the fabric. Not the fake Halloween kind either. These looked real. I'm starting to lose sleep over this shit. Why are these customers so obsessed with fresh costumes? What's with the weird movements, the flat voices, and those stitches? I can't get that image out of my head. Part of me wonders if I'm just losing it. Maybe it's the late hours getting to me, you know? Lack of sleep, too much caffeine, and a boatload of stress from school. It's a recipe for seeing things that aren't there. But then I'll catch one of them staring at me from across the store, head tilted at an impossible angle. And I know deep in my gut that something is very, very wrong. I've started double-checking the locks when I close up shop, making sure all the mannequins are where they're supposed to be before I leave. It's stupid, I know, but I can't shake this feeling that the moment I turn my back, something's going to change. Like the store itself is holding its breath, waiting for me to let my guard down. God, I need a new job. But until I find one, I'm stuck here, surrounded by masks and costumes and customers that might not be customers at all. And as Halloween gets closer, I can't help but wonder what's really hiding behind all these disguises. Turns out, those creepy customers were just the tip of the iceberg. You think the showroom floor of a costume shop is weird. Let me tell you about the back room. It's like stepping into a nightmare funhouse, only there's nothing fun about it. So, my boss asked me to do inventory in the back room. No big deal, right? Wrong. This place is a maze of shelves and mannequins, dimly lit and dusty as hell. The air's thick and musty, like nobody's breathed it in years. I'm surrounded by boxes of masks, their empty eyes seeming to follow me as I move. Creepy doesn't even begin to cover it. I'm halfway through counting vampire capes when I hear it. This noise. At first, I think it's just the old building settling, you know? But then it comes again. A wet, squelching sound like someone stepping in mud. Only we're indoors, and there's no mud anywhere near here. It's coming from behind a stack of boxes in the far corner. My heart's pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. Part of me wants to run, but curiosity gets the better of me. I start moving the boxes one by one. They're heavier than they look, filled with God knows what. And then I see it. A trapdoor. Old wood with a rusty handle. The squelching sound is definitely coming from underneath. I reach for the handle, my hand shaking. Just as my fingers brush the metal, I hear footsteps behind me. I whirl around, and there's my boss, looking nervous as hell. "What are you doing back here?" he asks, his voice higher than usual. Before I can answer, he's telling me to go home early. Says I look tired, that he'll finish up the inventory himself. I don't argue. I'm out of there faster than you can say haunted costume shop. My next shift, I go straight to that corner. But the trapdoor's gone. Vanished. Like it was never there in the first place. I ask my boss about it, and he looks at me like I've grown a second head. Says there's never been a trapdoor, that maybe I'm working too hard and seeing things. But I know what I saw, what I heard. And the customers, they're getting weirder by the day. It's not just the jerky movements anymore. Their skin looks off, stretchy, like it doesn't quite fit right. I catch one woman reaching for a hat, and I swear I see her wrist bend backward at an impossible angle. When she notices me staring, she snaps it back into place with a sickening pop. I'm starting to wonder if these are even customers at all. Are they something else? Something wearing human skin like a cheap Halloween costume? I know how crazy that sounds. Trust me, I do. But after what I've seen, what I've heard, I can't shake the feeling that there's something terrifying going on here. I've started documenting everything. Taking pictures when I can, jotting down notes on my phone. But here's the kicker, every time I try to look at the photos later, my phone glitches out. The images are corrupted, just blurry messes of pixels. And my notes, they vanish, replaced by gibberish characters. It's like the universe itself is gaslighting me. My boss acts like nothing's wrong, the evidence keeps disappearing, and these things keep coming into the shop, pretending to be human. I'm starting to doubt my own sanity. Maybe I am just stressed, seeing things that aren't there. But then I'll catch a glimpse of something impossible. A customer's head rotating a full 360 degrees, or fingers that are just a bit too long and flexible. And I know I'm not imagining it. I need answers. And I'm terrified of what I might find. Well, just when I thought things couldn't get any weirder, my boss drops a bombshell. New policy, he says, with a grin that doesn't quite reach his eyes. We're doing costume fittings now. My stomach drops. Up close and personal with these things. This can't end well. I'm on edge all day, jumping at every little sound. The bell above the door chimes, and I nearly leap out of my skin. A woman walks in, and my blood runs cold. Her skin is so pale it's almost gray, like someone drained all the color from her. She glides across the floor, movements too smooth to be natural. I require your freshest costume, she says in that same flat tone I've come to dread. I lead her to our newest arrivals, my hands shaking as I pull a princess dress off the rack. It's all frills and glitter, something a little girl would love. But the way this woman's looking at it, it's like she's eyeing up a meal. I help her into the dressing room, my skin crawling at the thought of being in such close quarters with her. As I zip up the dress, my fingers brush against her skin. It's cold, clammy, like touching a rubber Halloween mask. I jerk my hand away, trying to hide my disgust. She turns to look in the mirror, and that's when it happens. Her head starts to twist. Not just a little, but all the way around. A full 180 degrees. I'm frozen in place, watching as her neck keeps turning, until she's facing me. Her eyes lock onto mine, and a smile spreads across her face. It's too wide, stretching from ear to ear in a way that's just wrong. This will do nicely, she says, her voice suddenly deep and guttural. I stumble backward, my legs turning to jelly. I crash into a rack of costumes, sending masks and wigs flying everywhere. The noise is deafening in the quiet store. I hear my boss's footsteps pounding down the aisle. But when I look up, the woman's gone, vanished into thin air, leaving nothing but the princess dress in a heap on the floor. My boss rounds the corner, his face red with anger. What the hell is going on here? He demands, surveying the mess. I try to explain, words tumbling out in a panicked jumble. The woman, her gray skin, the way her head turned. But with each word, my boss's expression grows darker. Maybe you need some time off, he says, cutting me off mid-sentence. You're clearly overworked, seeing things that aren't there. But I know what I saw. The image of that woman's head spinning around is burned into my brain. It's like something out of a horror movie, but it was real. As real as the cold sweat on my skin and the tremor in my hands. I don't want time off. I need answers. What's making these customers move so strangely? Why do they feel so wrong? There's something sinister going on here, something beyond my worst nightmares. And as much as it terrifies me, I can't walk away. Not now. Not when I'm so close to uncovering the truth. As I clean up the mess of costumes, my mind races. Maybe I am losing it. Maybe the stress and lack of sleep are finally getting to me. But deep down, I know that's not true. I've stumbled onto something dark and dangerous, and I have a sinking feeling that it's only going to get worse as Halloween draws near. You know that moment in horror films where everything seems normal, but there's this undercurrent of wrongness that makes your hair stand on end. That was my life on the night before Halloween. The costume shop was busier than ever, but as I watched the crowd, a chilling realization crept over me. These weren't last-minute shoppers looking for a bit of fun. They were predators, and they had their sights set on something far more sinister than plastic masks and cheap wigs. The shop was packed, bodies pressed together in a writhing mass of last-minute Halloween prep. But something was off. Everyone was moving weird now, not just the night creeps I'd gotten used to. Even the regulars, folks I'd known for months, were different. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, like they were puppets being controlled by unseen strings. I was ringing up a kid's Superman costume when I noticed it. The adults in the store weren't browsing anymore. They were watching, all of them eyes fixed on the children running around excitedly. It wasn't the fond look of parents or the irritation of childless shoppers. No, this was hunger. Pure, animalistic hunger. A man in a business suit caught my eye. He was staring at a little girl trying on a fairy wings. As I watched, his tongue darted out to lick his lips, but it wasn't normal. It was too long, impossibly long, and forked at the end like a snake's. I blinked hard, and when I looked again, it was gone. Just a normal guy with normal lips. But I knew what I'd seen. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely work the register. I kept thinking about all those stories of mass hysteria, how groups of people can experience shared delusions during times of stress. Was that what was happening here? Had I finally cracked under the pressure? Just then, my boss's voice boomed over the PA system. "Attention shoppers. Due to popular demand, we'll be staying open all night. That's right, folks, we're here for all your last-minute costume needs." I whipped around to look at him, standing at the front of the store. His eyes were gleaming with an excitement I'd never seen before. No, not excitement. Anticipation, like a predator who knows the hunt is about to begin. That was it. I'd had enough. I started making my way to the back room, planning to grab my stuff and bolt. But my boss intercepted me before I could reach the door. "Where do you think you're going?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Home," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My shift's over." He shook his head slowly, a smile spreading across his face. It was too wide, stretching farther than any human mouth should. "Oh no," he said, "we need you here, to help with the fresh arrivals." That's when it hit me. The pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. The weird customers. The obsession with fresh costumes. The way they moved like they weren't used to their bodies. We weren't selling costumes. We were selling bodies. I felt the blood drain from my face as I looked around the store with new eyes. These weren't customers shopping for Halloween. They were something else, something inhuman, wearing human skins like ill-fitting suits, and they were here to get new ones. The urban legend of the Slender Man flashed through my mind, a figure that preys on children, inspiring real-world horror. But this was worse. This was real, and it was happening right in front of me. As my boss's grip tightened on my arm, I realized with growing terror that I wasn't just a witness to this nightmare. I was trapped in it, and as the night wore on and Halloween drew closer, I had a sinking feeling that the real horror was just beginning. I'm huddled in the back room, surrounded by lifeless mannequins that suddenly seem more human than the seams outside. My hands shake as I type this on my phone, praying it doesn't glitch out again. I don't know how much time I have left. If you're reading this, please be careful this Halloween. That costume you're eyeing. It might have been someone. A real person with a life and dreams, now nothing more than a discarded skin for these creatures. Listen to your instincts. If someone moves too stiffly, speaks too flatly, or asks for fresh costumes, don't ignore that feeling in your gut. Run. Run like your life depends on it, because it just might. I hear footsteps approaching. Heavy, uneven, inhuman. This might be my last chance to warn you. Stay safe out there, and whatever you do, don't.
Hey, if you crave more spine-tingling stories, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Enter our haunted realm, if you're brave enough.